The galaxy was burning. Across the endless stars, planets fell one by one. Cities that once shone bright were turned to dust and silence. Every week, new reports came. Another world gone, another species erased. No one could stop the war that had started among the great powers. In this storm of destruction, there was one species that everyone pitied, the Fralians. They were small, soft-skinned creatures from a peaceful world called Fralos Prime. Their eyes were large and bright, their voices gentle and their hands made for art, not war. They had no claws, no strong armor, and no armies. For centuries, they believed that peace and kindness could protect them. But in the cruel galaxy, kindness meant weakness. The Fralians had built great floating cities in their skies and crystal towers that touched the clouds. They sang instead of fought. They healed instead of harmed. And for a long time, they lived in quiet beauty, until the war reached them. The first sign came in the form of fire streaking across their night sky. The Varkon Dominion, a ruthless species of warriors, had come. The Varkons saw themselves as conquerors of the weak. To them, the Fralians were not people, they were prey. The Fralian defense fleet tried to resist. Tiny silver ships built for exploration were sent to fight massive Varkan battleships. The battle lasted only 6 hours. 6 hours, and a world that had stood for 10,000 years was gone. Fralos Prime was burned. Its oceans boiled. Its towers fell. The survivors, only a few thousand, escaped in small, fragile ships. They fled into the blackness of space, running from death, running from the memory of their lost home. Now, they drifted between stars, homeless and hunted. Their ships were slow, their supplies low and their hope almost gone. Wherever they tried to land, the strong pushed them away. One world called them cowards. Another world called them useless. Even the Galactic Council, the great alliance of powerful races, refused to help. "The Fralians are a dying species," said the council leader. "We cannot waste resources on the weak." So they were forgotten, floating through the void, their lights dimmed. The Fralians wondered if their story was already over. On one ship, the Star of Fralos, Captain Nira Vele stood by the observation window. Her once blue uniform was torn, her face pale and tired. Around her, only a few dozen survivors remained. They were silent, their faces empty. Children slept in metal corners, whispering in their dreams about the homes they lost. "Is this how it ends?" whispered her first officer, Jalen. "Is this how our people vanish, but without even being remembered?" Nira did not answer. She stared at the stars, thousands of them cold and uncaring. Then something flickered on their scanners. At first it looked like a mistake, a faint blue dot on the edge of their map. But the readings were real. A planet rich in oxygen with wide oceans and green land. It was small and quiet, far from the main space routes. No known colonies, no warships, no sign of the Council. A world untouched. "What is its name?" Nira asked softly. The ship's AI paused for a moment, then replied, "The local inhabitants call it Earth." For the first time in weeks, Nira smiled. A weak, trembling smile. "Set a course," she said. Maybe we can hide there." The engines groaned. The Star of Fralos turned toward the small blue world. As it did, the stars around them seemed to watch. The galaxy, vast and cruel, barely noticed a single ship carrying a few survivors. But fate had already begun to move because the weakest species in the galaxy was heading toward the one planet that would change everything. They did not know that humans lived there. Beings, considered primitive by galactic standards. They did not know about Earth's wars, its history, its pain. They did not know that humans had survived every disaster thrown at them, by nature, by each other, and by time itself. The Fralians thought they were running to safety, but in truth, they were running into the heart of something greater. Behind them, the Varkon Dominion tracked the faint signal of their ship. The Varkon commander, a brutal creature with dark scales and burning eyes, looked at the readings and laughed. "They think they can hide on some dirt planet?" he said. "Let them run. We'll find them, and when we do, their new home will burn with them." Far away, Earth spun peacefully, blue and unaware of the storm coming its way. And somewhere above it, the last ship of a dying race prepared to descend, hoping for mercy, praying for a second chance. They did not know it yet, but this world, this strange, wild, dangerous planet called Earth, would soon become the place where the galaxy's weakest species would find its greatest strength. The star of Phrylos entered Earth's orbit silently, hidden by clouds and shadows. The blue planet below glowed like a jewel. Vast oceans, white clouds, and green lands that looked alive. To the Fralians, it was beautiful. To Captain Nira Vela, it was hope. "Scan for life," she said softly. Her crew worked quickly, tired hands shaking. The readings came back almost instantly. Millions of life signs, humanoids, primitive technology. But there was one thing that shocked them all. "They use combustion," said Jalen, frowning. "Engines that burn air and fuel. They have satellites, but no warp drives." Nira's heart sank. "So they are not spacefaring?" "No, Captain," replied the ship's AI. "This world is young. But it is alive." The bridge fell silent. They had escaped war, fled across galaxies, and now stood above a planet of primitives. Could they really find safety here? Could such a simple species understand what they had lost? But before Nira could answer, alarms blared. The ship had entered too deep into the atmosphere. "Shields down to 40%, a pilot shouted. "The hull is overheating. Eject the core. We're falling." The star of Phrylos burned through the sky like a silver meteor. The night over Earth's deserts turned bright as day. People on the ground pointed up thinking it was a shooting star. But it wasn't. It was the last breath of a dying race. The crash shook the desert. A wave of sand and light rolled across the dunes. When it ended, silence returned. The kind of silence that feels alive. Inside the broken ship, smoke filled the corridors. Sparks danced. Fralians coughed and crawled out of their seats. They were alive, but barely. Nira stood, bleeding from a cut on her forehead. She looked out through the cracked window. Endless sand, a red horizon, and a dark sky full of strange constellations. "We made it," whispered Jalen beside her. "We're on the planet." But before they could celebrate, one of the engineers cried out. "Signal detected. Someone found us." On Earth, a nearby military base had already locked onto the crash site. Hours later, the first convoy arrived. Jeeps, soldiers, bright lights cutting through the night. Dust rose around them as humans in desert uniforms surrounded the wreckage. They moved carefully, weapons raised, unsure what they'd find. When they saw the Fralians, they froze. Small, pale creatures with wide eyes and trembling hands stood in the broken doorway of the ship. They looked scared, not like invaders, not like monsters. "Just lost. Are they children?" one soldier whispered. "No," said another. "Look at their eyes. They're older." The humans didn't fire. Instead, they slowly lowered their weapons. Nira stepped forward, raising her empty hands. She spoke in her own language, her voice shaking. "We mean no harm, please. Help us." Of course, the humans didn't understand, but they could feel it, the fear, the pleading tone, the way her voice cracked. A young human woman at the front, Dr. Maya Lopez, a xenobiologist who had been rushed to the site, took off her helmet and approached slowly. "It's okay," she said gently, placing her hand on her chest. "Human, I'm human." Then she pointed at Nira. "You?" Nira hesitated. She touched her own chest. "Fralian," Maya smiled softly. "Fralian," she repeated, pronouncing it carefully. Something passed between them. The first understanding between two worlds. The Fralians were taken to a secure underground facility, not as prisoners but as guests. Their ship was hidden, guarded from public eyes. The world above would be told it was a meteor impact. For days, humans studied their language, their biology, their technology. But they did not harm them. They gave them food, water, blankets, and slowly, the Fralians began to trust. Dr. Maya spent hours with Nira, drawing symbols, showing pictures, teaching words. "Sky," she said, pointing upward. "Home," Nira smiled faintly. "Home," she echoed. They learned about each other's worlds, how the Fralians had built cities of glass that floated on air, and how humans had walked on their own moon. "You are not weak," Maya said one night. "You survived the stars. That takes strength." Nira looked at her with tears in her eyes. "We were called weak, all our lives. But maybe," she paused, looking at Maya, "maybe we found strength here." But while humans and Fralians shared words and warmth below the desert, something cold was moving above the stars. A dark fleet entered the edge of the solar system. Silent, massive, unstoppable. The Varkon Dominion had found the signal of the Star of Phrylos. On their command ship, The Varkon leader leaned forward. His eyes glowed with cruel joy. "So this is where they hide," he said. "A small blue world." "How perfect," he smiled, sharp and cold. "Prepare the fleet. We will burn their sanctuary and teach this planet what it means to shelter the weak." Deep beneath the desert sands, far from the noise of the world, the Fralians found peace for the first time in years. The underground facility was a maze of metal walls and quiet rooms. Humans moved carefully through the halls, soldiers guarding doors, scientists studying alien symbols, and doctors tending to the small, fragile visitors who had fallen from the stars. For the Fralians, it was strange and wonderful. They had expected fear, anger, maybe even violence. But the humans showed kindness. They offered food, clean water, soft blankets, and warmth. To the Fralians, it felt like a miracle. Captain Nira Vele often stood at the viewing glass of her new room, looking at the strange sky camera feed above, a sky of blue she had never seen before. She could not step outside yet, but she could feel the planet's pulse through the walls. "This world is alive," she said one evening. "It breathes like our old world once did." Beside her, Dr. Maya Lopez smiled. She had become the Fralians' voice on Earth, learning their language faster than anyone expected. Day by day, she translated words, gestures, and hopes. "It's not perfect," Maya said softly. "But Earth has a way of protecting what's fragile. We've had wars, disasters, even near extinction. But we always survive." Nira turned toward her. "That is strength," she said slowly. Maya nodded. "Yes, it is the strength of not giving up." Weeks passed, the Fralians began to recover. They told their stories, of floating cities made of crystal, of songs that could calm storms, of children who had never seen violence until the Varkons came. The human researchers listened in silence, some even moved to tears. Jalen, Nira's first officer, started helping the engineers repair what was left of the Star of Phrylos. Human scientists were amazed by the alien ship's technology. Engines that ran on light, data cores that stored memories as songs. But the Fralians were just as amazed by the humans. "You build machines from steel and oil," Jalen said once, watching them work. "It is rough, but full of life," a human mechanic laughed. "That's Earth for you. We make things that shouldn't work, and somehow they do." Bit by bit, trust grew between the two species, but not everyone on Earth agreed with the secrecy. Some generals feared the Fralians could be spies. Others thought their presence might bring danger. One late night in a private meeting room, Maya argued with the head of security, Colonel Grant. "They're survivors, not soldiers," she said firmly. "They have no weapons." Grant crossed his arms. "Every war starts with someone saying that, Doctor. For all we know, their enemies might come looking." Maya paused. Her eyes darkened. "And if they do?" "Then," Grant said grimly, "we'll protect this planet. But I hope you're right about them." A few days later, Nira was finally allowed outside, under human watch, of course. The desert stretched endlessly around her, golden and warm under the sun. The air felt heavier than what she knew, but she breathed it in deeply. "It smells like dust and heat," she said softly, "and freedom." Maya stood beside her. "Welcome to Earth, Captain." Nira looked at the horizon. "If my people are to live again, perhaps it will be here," Maya smiled. "Then maybe Earth just became your second home." In the following weeks, humans built a secret colony near the crash site. Small homes for the Fralians, greenhouses to grow food they could eat, and learning centers where scientists studied and taught both ways. Human and Fralian knowledge shared side by side. Children from both species would someday walk those halls together. Was the first true peace either race had known. In a long time, but far beyond Earth's atmosphere. In the cold dark of space, the stars trembled. A single probe, small, unnoticed, drifted near the edge of the solar system. It wasn't human. Its hull bore the black insignia of the Varkon Dominion. It sent a faint pulse of data across the void. A signal. On Earth, deep inside the facility, one of the Fralian engineers froze. His monitor flashed. A symbol he knew too well appeared on the screen, the mark of their destroyers. His hands shook. "No," he whispered. "They found us." That night, Nira went to Maya's quarters, her face pale. "They are coming," she said in a trembling voice. "The Varkons will not stop. They will follow us here, and when they do, they will burn this world as they burned ours." Maya stared at her in silence. Then she stood and spoke with quiet fire. "Then they'll learn something new about this planet," she said. "We don't surrender. Not to anyone." Nira looked at her, this human woman with no armor, no weapons, just courage. And for the first time in her life, she felt what hope truly meant. As dawn rose over the desert, the Fralians and humans stood together for the first time, side by side beneath the orange sky. They didn't know what was coming, but one truth was clear: Earth, the world of fragile creatures, was about to become the fortress of the weak, and the birthplace of something powerful enough to shake the entire galaxy. Far beyond the moon's cold light, the dark fleet entered the solar system. 12 massive warships glided through space, silent as shadows. Their hulls were black as night, built from the bones of conquered worlds. They belonged to the Varkon Dominion, a name that made whole planets tremble. At the center of the fleet stood the flagship Oblivion Spear, commanded by Lord Zareth, the Varkon High Hunter. His skin was armored like stone, his eyes sharp and gold. Every breath he took came out as a growl, heavy with hate. He stared at the holographic image before him, a blue and green planet glowing in the darkness. "So this is where the Fralians hide," he muttered. "A primitive rock at the edge of nowhere." His second-in-command bowed. "Scans show no space defenses, my lord. Their weapons are old. Their ships cannot even leave orbit." Zareth's lip curled. "Perfect. Then we'll make this their grave." He turned to the fleet. "Send the message to the Dominion. The hunt ends here. Prepare the cleansing fire." Down on Earth, no one knew what was coming. The Fralians had begun to rebuild, believing maybe they were safe. They grew food, learned human words, and smiled again. But Captain Nira couldn't sleep. The warning from the engineer haunted her. Early one morning, she walked into the control room where Maya Lopez stood beside a row of monitors. The human scientist looked exhausted, eyes red from hours of study. "Maya," Nira whispered, "the Varkons are close. I can feel it." Before Maya could reply, an alarm shrieked through the base. "Unknown objects detected," shouted a technician. "Entering orbit." The screen lit up with 12 red signals. Their size, enormous. Their energy readings, off the charts. Colonel Grant rushed into the room. "Get NORAD on the line. Wake the president. We've got unidentifieds incoming." Maya stared at the screen. Her voice was almost a whisper. "They found you." The first Varkon ship broke through the clouds above the Pacific. Its shadow covered the ocean like a storm. Fishermen below looked up in disbelief as the water rippled under the ship's energy field. All over the world, satellites captured the invasion. News networks went wild. Panic spread faster than fire. But inside the secret desert base, there was no panic. Only purpose. "Get the Fralians underground," Grant ordered. "No one leaves this site. We're going dark." Nira stepped forward. "You can't fight them," she said. "They have weapons that can melt cities." Grant met her gaze. "Then we'll make them bleed before they melt us." Maya turned to him. "Colonel, you don't understand. These aren't raiders. They destroy planets for sport." Grant just loaded his rifle and said quietly, "So do humans, when we have to." Hours later, the world went silent. Communication lines were jammed. Satellites fell. The power grid flickered. And then the first strike came. A single Varkon energy beam tore through the upper atmosphere, hitting an uninhabited island in the Pacific. The explosion was brighter than the sun. Waves rolled for miles. Every nation on Earth saw it, a warning. Lord Zareth watched from his ship, pleased. "They will surrender soon," he said, but they didn't. In the skies above North America, human fighter jets rose to meet the impossible. They flew straight toward ships the size of cities, and they fired. Missiles, railguns, EMP bursts. Most didn't even scratch the Varkon armor, but one lucky strike hit a smaller ship's thruster. It spun out of control and crashed into the sea. It was small, but it was a victory. When the news reached the desert base, cheers broke out. Humans, it seemed, didn't know how to quit. Nira stared at the footage in shock. "You fought them?" Maya smiled tiredly. "We don't run. We never have." Nira turned away, her voice trembling. "Then maybe this world has something the galaxy forgot. Courage." On the Varkon flagship, Lord Zareth was furious. "One of our destroyers. Brought down by primitives," he roared. "Find me this Earth Defense Force, and I want their leader alive." His second-in-command spoke cautiously. Reports say there is no single leader, my lord. The planet's nations have united, Zareth froze. United? Impossible. They are savages. Perhaps, said the officer softly, but savages who fight together can be dangerous. Back on Earth, as the sky burned with alien fire, humans worked side by side with Fralians. The alien engineers shared what technology they could: shield generators, energy cores, and a communication jammer that could block Varkon scans. Maya and Nira stood together, watching as humans loaded makeshift weapons onto trucks. They call this Operation Dawn, Maya said. A global defense plan. Dawn, Nira repeated. A word for hope? Yes, Maya said with a small smile. The hope that this isn't the end. Outside, lightning flashed in the dust-filled sky. The war for Earth had begun. And far above, Lord Zareth gave his final order. Burn their cities, crush their armies, and bring me the Fralians alive. As the fleet descended, blue flames lighting the heavens, humanity stood ready, bruised, frightened, but unbroken. For the first time in galactic history, the hunters had found prey that could fight back. The world was on fire. Cities trembled under the roar of alien engines. The sky was torn open by blue fire. Across continents, people looked up and saw the impossible, ships the size of mountains blotting out the stars. For a moment, humanity froze. Then something ancient stirred, that old, stubborn spark that had carried them through every war, every storm, every ending, and Earth began to fight back. In Washington, London, Beijing, and Delhi, leaders shouted through failing communications. There was no time for politics, no time for blame. Every nation that could still speak sent the same message to its people. Stand and fight. Military satellites reconnected. Old bunkers reopened. Hidden weapons were powered on for the first time in decades. Nations that had once been enemies now shared data, maps, and sky codes. For the first time in human history, Earth had one enemy and one purpose. In the desert base, alarms screamed and lights flickered red. Their ground forces are landing, a soldier shouted. Multiple dropships inbound. Colonel Grant slammed his fist on the table. Get every aircraft we've got up there. Tell command we're not giving them this base. Dr. Maya Lopez turned to Captain Nira, her face pale but steady. You said they can melt cities. What chance do we have? Nira's voice was quiet. A small one. But small is better than none. Jalen, the Fralian officer, stepped forward holding a silver device. We can boost your missiles with this. An energy core from our ship. It will burn hotter than your son's fire. Grant blinked. You can do that? Jalen nodded. We can try. And trying is something we learned from you. The human engineers worked side by side with the Fralians. Sweat mixed with oil. Sparks flew as alien tech fused with human machines. Tanks were fitted with light reactors. Jets were armed with plasma-tipped warheads. What they built wasn't perfect. It wasn't elegant. But it was deadly. Maya called it the Phoenix Line, Earth's rebirth through fire. When dawn rose, the Varkon struck. Their ships hovered over major cities. New York, Tokyo, Paris, and Cairo demanding surrender. They broadcast their message across all frequencies. This planet shelters Fralian fugitives. Deliver them to us or your world will burn. The response came not from generals but from a young pilot broadcasting from a small airfield in Texas. Her voice cracked with static and courage. This is Earth, she said. Come and try. The message spread across every radio, every screen, every heart. And that was when the fight truly began. The first human counterattack hit over the Pacific. Stealth bombers, nearly invisible, flew into the thick of the alien fleet. Guided by Fralian scanners, they released new hybrid missiles. The explosion shattered the air, and one of the Varkon carriers burst into flame. Lord Zareth's fleet had taken its first real wound. On board his flagship, Zareth's eyes burned with rage. Find who did this, he snarled. I want them crushed into dust. But Earth didn't stop. From the Arctic to the Sahara, resistance rose like wildfire. Civilians joined soldiers. Farmers turned tractors into armor. Students hacked into old satellites to coordinate strikes. Everywhere, humans fought with whatever they had, with stones, drones, and sheer fury. Nira watched the chaos from the base's control room, her eyes wide with disbelief. They fight, like they're born for it. Maya nodded. We are. It's what we do best. Survive the impossible. That night, the desert sky glowed orange as the battle reached the horizon. Varkan landing pods fell like meteors. Tanks rolled through the sand. Human fighters roared above. At the heart of it, the Phoenix Line held firm. Grant's soldiers fought beside Fralian engineers, defending the energy cores. One blast cannon overheated, shaking the ground. The next one fired and split a Varkan walker in half. Maya ducked behind debris, covering her ears. "That one wasn't in your manual," she shouted. Grant grinned. "We're writing a new one." When the dust settled hours later, the first major battle for Earth was over. Thousands had fallen, but the alien army had been stopped. The Varkans pulled back, shocked. No planet had ever held the line against them before. Nira stood on the surface, looking at the smoke-filled sky. She saw human soldiers carrying the wounded, sharing water, refusing to rest. In her heart, something changed. "For so long, we believed strength came from power," she said softly. "But maybe true strength comes from those who fight because they must, not because they can." Maya smiled weakly beside her, her face streaked with dirt. "Welcome to Earth's way of doing things." High above the planet, Lord Zareth watched from the Oblivion Spear, his golden eyes narrowing. "This world," he hissed, "is not what I expected." He turned to his generals. "If they want war, we'll give them war. Prepare the orbital cannons. We end this on their soil." But deep inside he felt something strange, not fear, but doubt. For the first time in his long reign, the hunter had been hurt, and far below, the world he called primitive stood tall beneath the stars, its people shouting into the sky, not with fear, but with fire. The world no longer slept. From the tallest cities to the smallest villages, humanity was awake, not in fear, but in fire. The invasion that was meant to break them had done the opposite. It had united them. Every night the sky lit up with blue and red, alien fire and human defiance. Every dawn, survivors rebuilt what was lost and prepared to fight again. The war for Earth had become more than survival. It had become a message, and the message was simple. This planet would not kneel. High above, in the orbit between the Moon and Earth, the Oblivion Spear opened its weapon ports. Lord Zareth stood before the glowing map of the planet, his claws tapping against the floor. "Begin the final strike," he ordered. "They have resisted long enough." His officers hesitated. "My lord, the losses are growing. Their air defenses are adapting faster than expected." Zareth's eyes flared gold. "You speak as if they are equals. They are insects." He slammed his hand on the console. "Burn their oceans. Scorch their continents. Let no life remain." And with that, the Varkan cannons fired. Blue beams sliced through the clouds, burning trails across the sky. Entire regions went dark as power grids failed. The oceans boiled where the beams struck, and earthquakes rippled across the planet. For a moment, it seemed as if Earth might finally break, but humanity didn't break. It roared. Colonel Grant's voice came through every military channel. "All forces, this is not the end. This is our home. Stand your ground and hit them back." In the deserts, missile silos opened. In the mountains, hidden laser batteries powered up. Human pilots soared through smoke-filled skies, weaving between alien fire. And at the heart of it all, Fralian engineers worked beside them, guiding attacks, boosting shields, and patching human tech with alien precision. Dr. Maya Lopez stood beside Captain Nira inside the command center, eyes locked on the global battle feed. "They're hitting every major power grid," Maya said, her voice shaking. "If we lose the shields, they'll level the cities." Nira's hands moved fast over the console. "We can reroute through our ship's energy core. It's risky. If it overloads, then we lose everything anyway," Maya finished. Without another word, they did it. The energy core of the star of Frailos, hidden deep underground, surged to life. Power flowed through the network like lightning. Across the world, shield domes flickered, then burned bright. For the first time, Earth glowed with a blue halo that stretched across continents. The Varkan's next volley struck, and failed to pierce it. In the chaos of orbit, a fleet of small human ships guided by Fralian navigation launched toward the Oblivion Spear. They were barely more than tin cans compared to the alien giants, but they flew with something no machine could measure. Lieutenant Harris, leading the strike, grinned into his calm. We're going to punch a god in the face, boys. Let's make it count. The fleet dived through plasma fire. One by one, their ships exploded, but each loss opened a path for the next. Finally, 3 human fighters reached the flagship's lower bay. They released a Fralian energy core, rigged as a bomb. Gift from Earth, Harris whispered as the core ignited. The explosion tore through the Varkon's lower decks. Fire spread through the ship's heart. Lord Zareth roared as alarms screamed, "Find them! Extinguish the fire!" he shouted. But it was too late. The Oblivion Spear, the pride of the Dominion, was bleeding. Down below, cheers erupted in every command center. "They did it," someone shouted. "They hit the flagship." Maya leaned against the console, trembling with relief. "They actually did it," Nira smiled faintly. "Your people are insane." Maya laughed through tears. "We prefer determined, but the victory came at a cost. Half the world lay in ruins. Millions were lost, and the Varkons, though wounded, were not gone." Lord Zareth limped to the observation deck, watching the blue planet below. His eyes narrowed. "They think this is over?" he growled. Then he saw something that made him pause. A signal, weak but spreading across the galaxy. It came from Earth, broadcast by the Fralian survivors, a message spoken in a mix of human and Fralian words. "To any who can hear this, the Fralians live. We are not slaves. We are not weak. And this world stands with us." Across the stars, other species heard. The forgotten, the frightened, the powerless. And for the first time, hope flickered in the dark corners of the galaxy. As the battle slowed, Nira and Maya stood on the desert ridge. Smoke curled into the night sky, glowing orange against the stars. "Your planet," Nira whispered. "It's chaos. But beautiful chaos." Maya looked at her. "That's what keeps us alive." Nira nodded. "Then maybe it will keep us all alive." Above them, the broken Oblivion Spear drifted in flames. The war wasn't over, but the impossible had happened. The galaxy's weakest had stood their ground. And in that moment, beneath the stars, Earth became a sanctuary not just for one species, but for hope itself. The smoke of war still hung over Earth. Skies once filled with alien fire were now silent, glowing faintly with the dying light of the Varkon fleet. The oceans were scarred, cities shattered, but the world still turned, alive, defiant, and free. Humanity had survived. And not just survived. It had done the unthinkable. It had defeated a galactic empire. The news spread slowly at first, carried on fractured signals and fragments of coded messages. But once it began, it could not be stopped. Across the galaxy, hidden worlds and forgotten colonies picked up the transmissions, the story of the small blue planet that had stood against the might of the Dominion. Some called it impossible. Others called it madness, but everyone called it hope. Deep in the desert, the underground base that once held fear and secrecy had transformed into a place of rebuilding. The Fralians, once hunted and homeless, now walked freely under the Earth's wide sky. They planted gardens in the sand, built homes beside human engineers, and taught songs that could calm the wind. Children played together, human and Fralian, their laughter echoing through the dust like a promise of peace. Captain Nira, Vale stood on a metal balcony overlooking the growing settlement. The sunrise painted the world in golden fire. Dr. Maya Lopez joined her, holding 2 steaming cups of coffee. "Never thought I'd see aliens drinking Earth coffee," Maya said. Smiling, Nira sniffed the cup curiously. "It smells like burned dreams," Maya laughed. "Close enough." They drank in silence, watching workers repair solar panels and build new towers. Above them, wrecks of Varkon ships floated in orbit, now silent monuments to the battle that changed everything. The Galactic Council, once proud and distant, could no longer ignore the truth. For the first time in centuries, their grand hall echoed with fear and shame. Reports arrived, verified, undeniable, that a non-member planet, a primitive species, had destroyed a Dominion flagship and forced a full retreat. "The humans are dangerous," one ambassador hissed. "They are unpredictable." "No," said another softly. "They are free, something we forgot how to be." Back on Earth, the Fralian signal spread wider, stronger, clearer. It carried an image. 2 figures standing side by side, Nira and Maya. The transmission played across space in 100 languages. translated by human and Fralian systems working together. Nira's voice came first, steady and calm. We were called the weakest species in the galaxy. We were hunted, destroyed, and forgotten. But when we found Earth, we found something stronger than power: compassion. Then Maya spoke. To all who hear this, you are not alone. If you seek peace, come as friends. If you seek to harm, remember this planet and the fire it carries. This is Earth, sanctuary of the weak and the graveyard of tyrants. The message changed everything. In the far reaches of the galaxy, enslaved colonies rose in rebellion. The word Earth became a symbol painted on walls, whispered in dark halls, carved into the hulls of hidden ships. The Varkon Dominion tried to silence it, but even they could not stop a story that had already become legend. The galaxy had a new fear, not of human weapons, but of human will. Weeks later, under the warm sun, a memorial was built in the desert. It was simple, 2 stones standing side by side, one engraved with the Fralian sigil, the other with Earth's blue sphere. Between them, a plaque read, "In unity we found strength." At the ceremony, soldiers, scientists, and survivors stood together. Nira looked around at the faces, tired, scarred, but proud. "We came here broken," she said quietly. "And you shared your world with us. Now this world belongs to us all." Maya placed a hand on her shoulder. "You gave us something too," she said. "You reminded us what it means to fight for more than just ourselves." They stood together as a soft wind blew across the desert, carrying with it the voices of the lost, the sound of laughter and the quiet hum of rebuilding. In orbit, a single satellite turned toward the stars, broadcasting Earth's message endlessly into the void. It didn't carry threats. It didn't carry warnings. Only truth. The weakest are not helpless. The small are not silent. And no world is too little to matter. Far away on a forgotten moon, a group of alien refugees huddled around a receiver, listening to the signal. A young child with silver skin looked up at the stars and whispered, "Maybe. We can go there one day." His mother smiled softly. "Yes," she said. "To Earth, the place where even the weak are strong." As the years passed, the galaxy would tell the story again and again, of the planet that turned fear into fire, and of the people who refused to surrender. And somewhere under the golden sky, humans and Fralians built a new dawn together, proof that hope could survive even the darkest night. Because in the end, the galaxy's weakest species had not just found sanctuary on Earth, they had helped make Earth the heart of a new beginning.